All right, so apparently we got a bracket system update, so you know what we got to do. All right, we're going to be going through this article together, and I'm actually going in blind. I know that the Trinket Mage just did a whole thing, like watching through the actual conversation that Gavin Verhey did, and a few other content creators have done the same thing. I'm not gonna do that. I want to actually just read what he's got up here, and let's go ahead and see what we've got. So we begin with Gavin saying, "Hello everyone, this is Gavin Verhey on behalf of the Commander Format panel. If you don't know what that is, you can read this article here. Today, I am coming to you all to share what we've been talking about recently and share some of the updates to the Commander Bracket system and Game Changers list based on hearing your feedback and watching how it's played out over the last few years. In September, we had a new event that was like nothing before, the Commander Summit. We invited the entire Commander Format panel to the Renton office for 3 days of discussion, meetings, and in-person talks about our ongoing work." Okay, so let's see who. So we got Josh Lee Kwai, we got Rebel. Okay, so I see a lot of really fucking great faces here. Okay, cool. And, you know, a lot of these are content creators I respect. So, all right, let's go ahead and see what we're at. It was a great opportunity to discuss a lot of what we had been seeing in person and really hash out a lot of the details of what we would like to do going forward with the Commander Bracket system and more. We also discussed several other topics. I want to get to the bracket changes first. After that, I'll tell you about some of the things we've been discussing and would love to hear your opinions on. So please read through and let us know. Let's kick off with the brackets, and if you want to recap of the brackets, please click here. Okay. After 3 MagicCons and 9 months of use, I would call the bracket system a success. They're not without failings, but we've seen the data from MagicCon surveys that shows that they've been incredibly helpful at finding games. Anecdotally, we see people talking about them when looking for games all the time, whether players are talking about the game changers they're playing, describing decks with the 5 brackets, or more. It has created more pre-game conversations. That said, there are things to clean up and improve. Also, he does note that the pre-game conversation is the real goal of the bracket system. Said first, we've talked about this before, is the lack of focus on intent. So much about the brackets is about what you're intending to do. I can easily build a deck which technically fits the restrictions of bracket 2, but can play at a very high power level. We're going to continue to emphasize that today with expectations on what you can find in each bracket as a North Star. We've also had some rules and heuristics that were not as clear as they should have been. Things like no early game combos or few tutors. While not everything can be a hard and fast rule, we can certainly do better. Okay, so I'm happy about this because I got so goddamn tired of having the conversation with people at my card shop about what the bracket system is and what it's not. And when somebody would have an opinion on the bracket system based entirely on the Game Changers list, and I would just have to be like, hey, did you actually read Gavin's article yet? And when they say, no, I didn't. Oh, so you don't have an opinion. Okay, that's super cool. You can stop now. You can grab that phone of yours. You can take a look at it, and you can see what was actually said about the brackets. And then I'd love to have a conversation with you when we're done. But honestly, not a moment before. I'm so tired of the bracket system being boiled down to the Game Changers list. Anyway, that's a personal gripe of mine. Let's go ahead and continue on here. Okay, so the third is that while our goal is to certainly not have an equal number of people in each bracket, some of how we directed people squished too many people into upgraded or bracket 3. I mean, yeah, bracket 3 was the power level 7 of the game. Today, we're going to update some terminology that we think will help people find the bracket for them. We still expect brackets 2, 3, and 4 to be the most popular, but this will hopefully distinguish them some more. Okay, interesting. Finally, we've done some tweaking to the Game Changers list and updated some of our philosophy. We started with probably too few cards, then did an update adding a ton of cards, and we went a little overboard. We needed to circle back on our goals. Today, we have some updated thoughts. Let's go through how we'd like to update each of these. All right, cool. Setting bracket expectations and turns played. Something we've heard from the community is that they would love better guidelines on what we expect from each bracket. So today, we wanted to walk you through our general framework and expectations for what we intend for each bracket. This isn't something where if your deck violates these one time, it's immediately out of bracket. Part of the fun in Commander involves unusual cards and combinations that can happen. Okay, so This is the thing that we've had a lot of like Reddit posts that we've covered on, where people have said that, oh, if I clone my opponent's Pitiless Plunderer and then I clone a different opponent's Shatterfang, did I break the bracket system? Like, no, you didn't. Your friends are just dumb. So, okay, I'm happy that that's at least acknowledged here. There are two pieces to this. The first involves expectations around the game, mainly focused on deck contents, types of win conditions, and gameplay. This is more descriptive and soft while still painting a picture of what to expect. The second is a little harder line, and that's how many turns you can generally expect to play. Ooh, thank God. Okay, we have a turn expectation. I like that. That's not to say games always end for you on those turns, but that if the game ended then, you would be satisfied with that experience. We heard from a lot of players that the length of a game is an important factor to them. So, for example, when Bracket 3 says you should expect to be able to play at least 6 turns before you win and lose, that means that someone's 7th turn is when you would be satisfied if the game ended. Our hope is that this also makes things a lot clearer in terms of big game-ending cards and combos, explaining where they should end up. For example, instead of wondering what no early game combos means, saying I don't expect to win or lose before turn 6 gives you a pretty clear indicator of what kind of combos could be allowed, not ones that tend to happen in the first 6 turns. That doesn't mean you should just wait and hold your 2-card infinite until later. If a combo could frequently come up, it's not the best fit for the bracket. Okay. So it's not like holding on to your thing and then winning when you think it's opportune. It's making sure that people are not going, hey, I cast Dina Soulsteeper after Vampiric tutoring the Exquisite Blood, and then since I Rampant Growth on turn 3, on turn 4, the Exquisite Blood comes out and the game's over. Okay, fair enough. So, players in Bracket 1. Decks prioritize a goal or a theme or idea over power. That's the same as we did with the Niv-Mizzet, or the Nicol Bolas deck. If you want to see that video, I think I'll throw it in the description below, where I did a deck for every bracket. Rules around card legality or viable commanders have some flexibility depending on the pod. Win conditions are supposed to be highly thematic and substandard, and the gameplay is meant to show off your creations. Generally, you should be expected to be able to play at least 9 turns before you win or lose. Okay, sure. Now, Bracket 2, this is the core experience. Decks are to be unoptimized and straightforward, with some cards chosen to maximize creativity or entertainment. I'd use the word unfocused, but I can see where they're going here. Win conditions are to be incremental, telegraphed on the board, and disruptible. Gameplay is to be low pressure with an emphasis on social interaction. Gameplay to be proactive and considerate, letting each deck showcase its plan. Okay, so hyper control decks don't belong in Bracket 2, is what that tells me. Generally, you should expect to play at least 8 turns before you win and lose. So Bracket 2, I guess, is what a lot of my decks kind of fall under. But I don't know if I'd be comfortable calling them Bracket 2. Bracket 3s are upgraded. Decks can be powered up with strong synergy and high card quality. They can effectively disrupt opponents. So this is like my Sephiroth deck. It is a disruption Esper deck. Okay. Game changers that are likely to be value engines and game-ending spells. Win conditions can be deployed in one big turn from hand, usually because of a steadily accrued resource. Yeah, that's most of my play group, honestly. And gameplay features many proactive and reactive plays. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I love the games that have people casting constant counter spells, board wipes, and shit. People that get upset at that agitate me a lot. So, like, here's Bracket 3. If you're playing in Bracket 3, expect proactive and reactive plays. You should expect to be able to play at least 6 turns before you win and lose. That seems a bit quick to me. Honestly, I build all my decks to stabilize or win by turn 8. But I can see where they're... Okay, so I guess like the $15 or $20 decks on the channel sit between Bracket 2 and 3 now. They sit in a, like, miasmic core between the two. Bracket 4 is your optimized decks. Decks are not to adhere to CEDH metagames, which are reserved for Bracket 3. Decks are to be lethal, consistent, and fast, designed to take people down as fast as possible. Game changers are likely to be fast mana, snowballing resource engines, free disruptions, and tutors. Win conditions are to vary but be efficient and instantaneous. And gameplay is to be explosive and powerful, featuring huge threats and efficient disruption to match. Okay, and then of course, bracket 5, CEDH. There is no rule 0 conversation. We are here to violate their deepest suggestions. Okay, cool. Fun. Then they have a area in here where we focus a little more on each one. So I'll do a brief read over. So exhibition bracket 1. All right. Rule 0 is the ability to allow things with a pregame discussion. It's always active for people at all brackets other than CDH, and we want to loudly emphasize that here. For bracket 1, do you have a really unusual theme that needs an atypical commander, like a playtest card? Then you are playing in bracket 1. So, like, all of you people who want to play the Slivdrazi Monstrosity, that is a bracket 1 game. Okay. But if you have a high-powered deck and you have a Slivdrazi Monstrosity, maybe things get a little weird then. Then the core... Okay, so the core bracket experience is no longer tied to precons. When we announced the brackets, we said core was about what you could expect from an average precon. While the goal of trying to bracket level something to something people recognized was noble, it came with 2 challenges. First, pre-constructed commander decks have a range of power levels. A Modern Horizons 3 deck or a Secret Lair deck isn't the same as a starter commander product. There were plenty of holes in the description where some precons, as they stand, didn't follow the model set forth. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I mean, you could just design the precons to be a little lower power, that'd be fine, and that would solve that problem, but okay. The second is that people's expectations around precons and what's in them is so varied. Decks from 5 years ago are different from the decks today. Core is still a great landing point for people, but that doesn't have to be tied to precons. Okay, fair enough. Now, here's an interesting one. They removed the tutor restrictions. So tutors increase consistency and risk homogeneity by making games play out the same. When we were building the original bracket system, we put in guide rails around tutors at first, citing few tutors. That original benchmark was not clear enough, and not all tutors are created equal. Sure, Demonic Tutor is super efficient, but Diabolic Tutor, not as much. And what counts as a tutor anyway? Is Expedition Map a tutor? Is Tezzeret a tutor? There's confusion around that as well. So after much discussion, the avenue we'd like to take is to remove the tutor restriction from commander brackets entirely and rely on the Game Changers list to be what safeguards us from tutors. Okay, that's interesting. And I kind of like it because it does remove that bit of confusion around construction. Though I did like the tutor conversation being in there initially because it made newer players question tutoring in the first place. Because like what I see a lot from newer players is seeing that a tutor exists and then going for it immediately, especially from Yu-Gi-Oh players who are really used to having a ton of tutors as what their deck is. That is just what Yu-Gi-Oh is. So I can see an argument both ways. I can see why you wanted to get rid of them because you didn't describe them very well to begin with. And I can see an argument for keeping them out of the situation, or like keeping them out of the brackets completely, because like, if I play Razaketh's right? That's a 6-mana tutor. Nobody's blinking their fucking eye at that thing. Okay, when we last talked, we added a bunch of game changers based on community feedback. While many of those were good additions, we swung the pendulum a little far. I disagree. Okay. They said they needed better philosophy around what makes a game changer. Game changers should generally be cards that easily or dramatically warp commander games, allowing players to run away with resources, shift games in ways that many players find unpleasant. Soul Ring! This is Soul Ring. Gavin, this is Soul Ring. Soul Ring falls under this category. Soul Ring warps games around it. Soul Ring accelerates you far past the rest of the table. Soul Ring does these things. This is Soul Ring, Gavin. This is Soul Ring. You won't touch Soul Ring. I'm sad. Okay. So they should be cards that easily and dramatically warp the games. All right, fair enough. High mana value cards. If you're spending tons of mana on something in Commander, it's going to be strong. We want to keep the focus on cards that can change the game in the earlier turns, where it can be most frustrating to have somebody run away with the game before players have been able to develop game. And legends that are just powerful commanders, the easiest thing to opt out of is somebody's commander. If someone says, I want to play Yuriko, you know exactly what that means, and it's easy to prompt a conversation. If somebody is wildly popular in the 99... or simply unfun all around, we're fine leaving it on the list, but power alone isn't a reason to have it as a game changer. Okay, cool. So, with all that in mind, here are some cards we want to remove today. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we're removing Expropriate. Okay, I don't agree with Expropriate being removed, but sure. Jin-Katax's Core Augur. This is no longer a game changer? So now my Taval deck is no longer running my Kefka deck is no longer running any game changers at all. Wild, weird. Sway of the Stars. Okay, yeah, it's each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library, draw 7, then their life totals become 7. I mean, I guess I can see this not being a game changer under the new philosophy. And Vorinclex Voice of Hunger. Oh, right. This doesn't need to be considered a game changer anymore because this is mass land denial. Like, Vorinclex Voice of Hunger is mass land denial. It doesn't need to be on the game changers list because it automatically relegates you to bracket 4 when you play it. It's just what it does. Okay, that's fine. Legends that are strongest in the command zone. Kinnan, Urza, Winota, and Yuriko. Okay. So these are no longer going to be game changers. I feel like these cards could still easily be game changer. Like, why do we not have a game changer commanders list? Like, the commanders that they themselves are so obscenely powerful because of who and what they are. Why is that not okay? Okay, well, fair enough. Finally, while they don't really fit in any of these categories, we'd like to remove Deflecting SWAT and Food Chain. Food Chain. You want to get rid of Food Chain from the Game Changers list? I mean, I guess it's no more a game changer than Phyrexian Arena or Phyrexian Altar. It's an incredibly powerful combo card. However, because it's a combo card, it doesn't risk causing trouble in the lower brackets anywhere. Adding it was a sensible thing because of its pedigree, but as the community noted, the brackets already do a good job of restricting combos. Okay, fair enough. Consecrated Sphinx stayed. Okay, Coalition Victory stayed. Panoptic Mirror, of course, stayed. Okay. Alrighty. Did they add anything to the Game Changers list or just pare it down? So they just pared it down. Okay. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so here's our new Commander brackets thing. This is our new reference. I like this. I'm happy. This explains decks way better. Exhibition. Decks prioritize theme instead of power. Core. Decks are mechanically focused with some cards chosen to maximize creativity or entertainment. Upgraded. Decks are powered up with strong synergy cards. Okay, so the core decks are no longer unfocused decks. They are now decks that are focused, but may not have great cards in those focused slots. So, like, you're a reanimation deck, but you're using Zombify as your reanimated card. But in an upgraded deck, you would use, you know, reanimate, animate dead, etc. Okay, fair enough. 0 to 3 game changers and upgraded, that's not changed. No chaining extra turns, that's not changed. No 2-card combos before turn 6. There we go. No 2-card combos before turn 6. Clear, easy to understand. I'm happy with it. Medusa says this leaves Taval and Sharoom decks that do sometimes chain extra turns. Whose Taval is chaining extra turns? What? Shivam says the chart's fantastic. I'm still thinking about the Game Changers list. Okay, Rachel Weeks pointing out all the other things that actually got removed. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. 3-3 Elk saying beautiful work. This is so much more clear now. Yeah, no, this is fantastic. This is great. I love this. Okay, so then they had more conversation around certain cards at the summit. All right, during the Commander Summit, we discussed several things we could look at changing about the format. Today, I want to mention some of them to you and solicit feedback. There are 4 main things. The first is Rhystic Study. This is one of the strongest cards in Magic. Holy fuck. At least, you know, for the kind of Magic we play, for Commander. It's a very iconic Commander card. Do you pay the one that's baked into so many references around the format? It's one of the most snowbally card advantage engines in Commander. Many casual games where it's played let the Ristic player run away with games as people just cast spells into it. At higher bracket like CDH, it causes huge issues. However, as far as we can tell, it's loved by many. It's not quite as iconic to the format as Sol Ring, but it's not that far off either. No! Don't use iconography to be what determines whether or not a card is good for play. Jesus. The Commander... Is Commander more fun with Ristic Study in it? Is there a world where it moves from being a game changer to just being banned? To be clear, our current thinking around this leans towards no, as it just is. It's just so iconic for casual Commander. But if you have thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. I'd love it banned. I'd love it banned. I don't like the card in casual Commander. It feels too powerful for casual games. People don't know how to play into the damn thing. And I hate the card in CDH because it doubles the amount of triggers that everybody has to respond to for everything. The second is Thoracle. The card is pervasive at the highest brackets of Commander as a way to instantaneously win the game, along with Demcon. I don't think Thoracle's actually a problem. Like, Thoracle's strong, yeah, but is it any... Like, it's only slightly stronger than Laboratory Maniac. And if we're getting rid of Thoracle, we got to get rid of that Laboratory Maniac. I don't see Thoracle as the biggest problem in the world, especially because you really only ever see Thoracle a couple of times in casual before it gets booted out of tables. Okay, so what's the next card here? The third thing is that there should be another bracket. I don't think there should be. We've discussed the idea of placing a bracket between 2 and 3 and brackets 3 and 4, as they currently sit to create a little more granularity. We ultimately want to see how today's changes impacted brackets before adding an additional one. The cost isn't 0, as people have to learn new nomenclature. This is something we'd love to hear from you. I think 5 brackets is fine. I think it's fine. I think decks falling into broad categories but having better guide rails has led to better games in general. I think that's fine. The fourth and final thing we'd love feedback on is something entirely different, which is hybrid mana costs. In Magic, hybrid mana cards are made to be playable by either color. That's how they work in all of Magic. If I have a Kitchen Sphinx, I can play it in a mono white deck or a mono green deck, but Commander is a place where it's the opposite. You can't put in either a mono white or a mono green deck. Allowing hybrid would give decks with fewer colors better tools and options to play. It allows for more playable options. From a design standpoint, the way we design hybrid cards is that it would need to be a card we'd print in another color. They must obey the rules of white and a green card independently, and they are often weaker than a monocolor card in either color. The proposal would be great, or would be that strictly for the purposes of deck building, you can treat a hybrid symbol as either of the two colors. So Wrist would be able to be in a white deck. Deathrite Shaman would remain ineligible for mono black because it has a green symbol in the text box. When it comes to two-brid mana costs, like that of Beseech the Queen, our inclination would likely be to let those work the same way so that any deck could play it if they wanted to, though that could have more discussion. We know that hybrid costs have been a long discussed thing in Commander. I feel like the hybrid cost discussion died years ago. I never see the hybrid cost discussion anymore. I really don't. I really don't at all. So, okay. Yeah, you know what? All right. All right. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. I'm okay. I'm okay with the current situation for Commander as it is, based on this bracket system change. I like this. I like having clearer guardrails. I think that makes the format better. I don't think it makes it worse. I do think that Ristic Study does not need to be in the game anymore. I'm okay with Ristic Study leaving the game. I'm not actually okay with Thassa leaving the game. I see Thassa as perfectly fine in CEDH and perfectly fine in Bracket 4. And realistically, the only problem people have with Thassa is how often people use it. But, like, it's no different than any other two-card combo that just wins the game. Like, it just does its thing. It's relegated away from brackets 1, 2, and 3. Like, I'm okay with it. I don't see that one as a problem. I also don't see the reason to have extra brackets, because then we're just moving closer and closer to that power level system we had before. Having the brackets where things fall into broad categories seems to be more of a feature and less of a bug to me, but that's just my opinion. So I don't know, let me know what you guys think. I love our new bracket panels. I think that works really well to explain everything. I love the system as it sits. I think it's in a very good spot, and you know what, maybe my opinion will change later, but I don't know. I think this is great. I think this is a really good way forward for Commander. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. I would love to hear your thoughts. I've made the unfortunate mistake of making all fan art canon, and you guys use that to make a ton of doppelgangers of me that try to ruin my life. So why not go ahead and celebrate that cacophony by picking up the new channel playmat over on Fourth Wall. When you pick up the playmat, take a picture and throw it up on social media tagging me so I can feature you in a future video.